Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be talking about item collection, but we're going to be doing it at a super fast pace. We're not going to give you any theory or any programming in this video. We're going to be using strictly Unity 4.3 and we're going to walk you through the steps as fast as possible just to show you how to do it. If you want the hour-long, hardcore, super intense, super in-depth, detailed, item collection video in Unity with theory and how to code it line by line and whatnot, please click on the link below this video and it'll take you right to it. But if you have already watched that video, or if that video is too long, don't watch, or you're already a Unity professional, you can just watch this video to take you through the steps of how to set up item collection. And the type of item collection that we're going to be doing in this video is the one to where when you're in an area, the item starts to glow or do something to get your attention as the player, so it leads the player to the item. Whether you're interacting with it or collecting it or whatnot is totally up to you. But in this example, we're leading the player with a glow to the item to be collected, and when you run into it, it gets collected. So here we go. Let's get started with item collection step by step in Unity 4.3. So first off, what you're going to do is you're going to build a really awesome level that you're happy with, because why even bother with a playable level if it's no good, right? So let's take a look at that. And so I've got my first-person controller here, which is from the package that I imported from a standard assets. The first thing you want to do is when you click on the player, you want to make sure his tag in the inspector is set to player. Okay, it's kind of common sense when you're making a first-person game in Unity, but you just want to make sure that step is there. Secondly, you want to find an item, specifically a 3D model of some kind, to put in your level as the collectible item. So I am just going to go in and find a 3D mesh here. I'm going to find a little statue, just because statues are fun to collect, I guess. So I'm going to grab the statue and I'm going to drag it into my level, and I'm going to press F to focus on the XYZ location of that object, which is very important. When you want to create something, if you press F to focus on something else, you can create it right there in that spot. So instead of calling this statue 03 in the hierarchy, I'm going to rename it to item, because that's the item that I want to collect. There we go. Alright, so after that, we need some type of glow. So again, I'm going to focus on the object, and then I'm going to go Game Object, Create Other, Light, Point Light. So that's going to be my glow. I'm going to put it slightly above this object, and there we go. On the color, I'm going to change it to something like green, so I can just see that it's working. And on shadows, we totally want some cool shadows, so I'm going to put it to soft shadows. And the programming that we're going to put on this is going to make it turn on and off through code. So I'm going to set the intensity to 0. Okay, so after that, we then need a trigger volume or area volume so that when the player touches it, it knows to turn the light on and off. So in that case, we're just going to do Game Object, Create Other, Cube. And we're just going to scale that cube down to the width that we want the player to be able to touch it. So when my player touches this cube, it's going to turn the light on and off. So the cube I'm going to rename to Trigger Volume. Okay, and I'm going to turn the mesh renderer off. That way it's not rendered and it's just used as a trigger. And then under the box collider, I'm going to say yes, make that a trigger. Now keep in mind, we need to do that for the item as well. So we're going to go back to the item, and we're going to tell that one to be used as a trigger as well. But you can see here there's no collision on our item. So what we need to do is we need to add component, physics, because collision is a physics-based thing, and we're just going to do box collider because it's the simplest. And we're going to say yes, make that a trigger. Okay? So that's all we really needed. We needed a light to make it glow. We needed the item to make it collectible. We needed it to be a trigger, so we could do that. And we needed the trigger volume so that when we touch it, it lights up. So we have some code here that you would have already written if you knew what you were going to do, or you'd write it as you go along. But on the item itself, we need the item code that we put on it. On the trigger volume, we need the trigger volume code that we've written. And let's take a look. On the item code, we have some spots here. We have the script. We have a sound to play so that when you click on it, it makes a sound. So I'm just going to grab a random sound here, drag it in. And we have text output. What that is that's some kind of debugging text that we're going to put on screen to let you know that it happened, that you collected it. So we're going to, just for now, go to Game Object, Create Other, GUI Text. GUI text is just text that's going to pop up on your HUD, basically. So we're going to delete the word GUI text, that way there's nothing in it. And we're just going to center it so that it's always in the center of the screen here. We're going to make the font size 12. We're going to give it green text just to match our glow. And that's that, right? So again, back on the item, in the text spot, we're going to drag our GUI text. And then let's take a look at the trigger volume. On the trigger volume, there's a spot for the light to use, because when we touch the trigger, we want the light to glow, right? So we're going to grab that point light, and we're going to drag it there. So we have a trigger volume, we have a point light, and we have an item. But they're three separate things. And what if we want to drop 1,000 of these in our level, like in Sonic the Hedgehog, where there's all these golden rings? Well, what we can do is we can again focus on that statue, and we can create an empty game object by going to Game Object, Create Empty. And that's basically going to help us group everything. So the game object we're going to rename, we're going to call it Item to Collect, and we're going to grab the item itself, the light, and the trigger volume, and drag it into the item to collect. So now we have this giant, item that we can move around, we can manipulate, we can do whatever we want to do with it. So since it has everything we want, why not turn that into a prefab that we could use over and over again? Well, that's what we're going to do. To create a prefab, just grab it from the hierarchy and drag it down to the project file here. I already have something called Item to Collect, so I need to rename this. I'm going to do Item to Collect 2, just so I don't overwrite anything. So Item to Collect 2, drag it down. We now have this prefab that has all this goody stuff in it. So, Item Collect there. Let's just drag another one here. Let's drag another one down to this little corner here. Sorry, we've got to drag it from our project file here. Item to Collect 2, we'll drag it down, put it there. We're going to focus on that and make sure he's, placed where we want him, sitting on the ground, rotated, all that kind of good stuff. Alright, and then let's check this just to make sure nothing went wrong. So on the second one here, we have the item, and it looks like we have no text output. So let's drag that back in there. GUI text down to there. Okay. Button click noise is there, all that noise is there. The trigger volume, everything's connected there. Okay, alright, let's check the first one. Item, trigger, yes. The GUI text, the noise, trigger volume, everything is there. Alright, and then all the code is written. So let's dive in and see what kind of errors we might get, because troubleshooting is a big part of game design. So we're here on the top of this, and we see our little statue. Let's get closer and see if it lights up. So it did light up. It's very strong. We would have to fix that, but that's okay. And let's see what happens if we can collect it. Alright, so when we collected it, it said you collected an item, and it made a noise. That means it's working. For some reason, it kind of froze there for a second, so I have to figure that out. But at least it's working. So we have this other light. When we get close to it, it brightens up. And you'll notice the you collected an item is still on the screen. So that's an issue. So let's collect this. We collected it. Everything seems to be working. But why is that text still on the screen? Well, that's because we forgot our little text eraser code that we wrote. Basically, what the text eraser code is doing is it says, whenever there's text on the screen, count down for 2 seconds and then erase it. So on the GUI text that we created, we're going to drop that little text eraser code, and it should be good. So let's try it again. So we're in our game, we're looking around for this item. When we get in the designated area, it glows, so we go pick it up. And it says, you collected it, right? So that's good. So we jump over, we're in the area again, we see another item to collect, so we go get it. Right? And it says, you collected an item, way to go. And you notice the text is erasing, and that's what we wanted. So again, this is a quick look at how to set up item collection, how to create the prefab of all the stuff that you want to happen, how to connect all the code through all the public slots, and then test it out. If you want the really long version that's super detailed, hour-long video, please click on the link that is down below.